I'm gonna start record there, but that's just gonna take audio. I just yeah, dude, good to see you.
No, things are good, dude, and just working through music and building shit. You know the deal.
Building shit. So you're doing the construction yourself?
Yeah,
Oh, that
I
must.
have a buddy, and I've got a couple people that help, but somewhere along the last 15 years, maybe 20 years, I've had to learn how to do construction,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
and I enjoy it, man. I'm not great at it, but I'm not bad at it.
No, in my opinion, like if you learn it, you'll do it better than anyone else, probably,
Hmm.
because you're gonna be very, very careful and take good pride and care in what you're doing, and then you can be proud about yourself.
I'll do aspects of it better than anyone else. I think that the final product may be a little suspicious, but it'll never come off the wall. You know what I
And
mean? So
exactly, I'm thinking you're the only guy who knows where like the shortcomings are. No one else is gonna see it.
that's
That's
true.
usually how it is for my places, anyways.
That's very charitable of you, brother. I think if I
So
sent you photos of my shit, you'd have another thought, but I appreciate it.
that's good, dude. I think I have to do this all again because I didn't click record on
It's gonna
Zoom.
happen.
The last frickin' I mean, I think I have the audio from before, but all right. So I'll try and pretend that we're. Oh, what's up?
Hey,
Hey, man,
buddy!
what's up?
Oh
Good
my
to see
God,
you.
long time! Holy cow!
Damn, dude. How
Yeah.
are you doing? You look good.
Every day is a gift. I look good. Oh my God, this camera must be broken. No, I feel good, man. I look like a melted version of myself when I was 25, and I feel every minute of 52. How about
Nice.
yourself?
Oh, it's good, man. It's good. Like you said, I mean, it's nice to be alive, and we should all just be happy.
And we are, and we
And
are.
and
Yeah. Well, thank.
speaking about happy,
Yeah.
you have a new song and single, Power Nerd, that I
Power nerd.
saw the video for just now, and also you're releasing an album the 25th of October called Power Nerd.
Yes,
So
indeed.
let me tell us about it then. What's what's it all about?
Power Nerd is one of four records. In about 2008, I had done something called Devin Townsend Project, which
Right.
was indicative of, artistically trying to represent a big period of change in my life.
Mm.
And what tends to happen when I go through big periods of change is the music tends to come out in four different directions. There's like a wild card, there's a complicated, heavy thing, there's a straightforward thing, and there's a sort of meditative thing. Back then, that was represented by Key, Addicted, Deconstruction, and Ghost.
Mm.
And now here we are 17 years later, 15 years later, whatever it is. And essentially, I'm doing that same process once more with another four record process that includes Power Nerd as the beginning, a sort of a musical opera thing called The Moth, a
Okay.
very strange sort of alien pop music thing called Axolotl, and then a meditational project called Dream Piece that
Mm.
is hand in hand with this YouTube series of me flying through the universe in a spaceship. And Power Nerd is one of these.
But is there a specific order to these, or like is the
Yeah,
so
yeah,
the Power Nerd, is that the first then?
yeah. It is.
And
It is.
have you already started like on the other three, or is it all
Oh
just
yeah. Oh yeah.
thoughts?
We announced a show for the Moth. I've been working on the Moth for maybe about 10 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that I do recognize, but the other two,
Yeah.
uh,
So essentially, how I tend to write is I wake up in the morning and I turn on my computer and I just write. I
yeah,
don't have any agenda. I don't write according to um, trying to fulfill any obligations for anybody else or myself musically. I just write.
mm,
And then as I write, what has happened over the years is I have piles that I start to put these ideas on, whether or not it's like a chorus or a verse or a riff or something. I'll say, okay, this one is more straightforward. It goes on this straightforward pile.
okay,
This one's more orchestral. It goes on the orchestral pile. And then after maybe about a year, sometimes 2 years, you've got a bunch of projects that end up representing musically that period of time.
right, right.
Yeah.
That's so cool. That's actually sort of similar of how I do things too, where it's like, you have riffs and they go into different folders. So, well, hard, soft, death
Totally,
metal
totally.
project, or, whatever.
Yep,
And then you
yep.
can wrap it up at the end of the year and check. But in regards to Power Nerd, I read that you try to not overthink
Hmm.
the songs for Power Nerd. Can you
Yeah,
explain that a
because
little bit?
yeah, well, all the other stuff is so overthought
Yeah.
that I figured that the audience that I've had for all these years have been just so nice.
Yeah.
That's the word that springs to mind, and tolerant would be another word because I tend to be more surprised by what comes out of me than anybody else. I don't plan it, so I'll be like, oh shit, I guess this is a country record, or I guess this is an ambient record, or I guess this is a death metal record, or whatever. Like I never know. So most of the time when I release something, it's with, it's through my fingers, sort of thinking to the audience like, thank you for the patience because here's something super fucked up. And Power Nerd functions as the first of these four records because I know that the complications of these next three records are so over the top.
Yeah.
I figured that the best way to start would be a peace offering. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, hey, here's something with a more straightforward visual aesthetic and sonic aesthetic. And so I referenced a lot of what I've done in the past with
Yeah.
Power Nerd, but it's a type of music that I write. It's like one of these four piles, and it just got to the point where I had enough that I could compile it. And knowing the next things were going to be complicated, I gave myself parameters for Power Nerd to try to not overthink it.
Mm.
Like whether or not that's like the amount of time I spent on a compositional stage or the amount of time I spend with the recording. I think that because I'm so many records in now, 30 some odd records into the career, I'm always looking for an angle that
Yep.
is inspiring. And for
Right.
Power Nerd, it was about trying to limit the amount of time.
Yeah. Right. So I heard a little bit, or not a little bit, but a lot of rocky
Yeah,
riffs, and
yeah, man.
it's funny because it's like when you listen to it, you can hear that when you're writing it, you're having fun. Like it's a
Yeah.
fun song.
Well, the irony with Power Nerd as a song and as an album. I mean, the first song that I put out is Power Nerd, and of course the video's like
It's great.
ridiculous. But I mean, in a very practical way, that's the character in the Power Nerd video is exactly how I've felt while I've been trying to do renovations.
Okay.
You know,
Yep.
it's like, dude, I'm fairly competent at music. I've got a strong work ethic, but life has just required me to like build shit and
Yeah.
like put together things and fix plumbing and do electrical. And I'm oftentimes I make it worse. So the idea was starting this procedure with the over the top Power Nerd video was not as much to say, well, here's a fun thing,
Mm.
because in full disclosure, during the process of making Power Nerd, my family went through some fucking horribly depressing loss,
Mhm.
and just it wasn't what I anticipated. I thought it was going to be a simple, fun sort of party record to start
Yeah.
the proceedings off, but it ended up that we dealt with some incredibly upsetting things
Mm.
during the writing of it. So Power Nerd is almost like a contradiction because on one hand it's like dumb, simple rock, and on the other hand it's like it's basically lyrically and emotionally about how to deal with loss, how to deal with death, how to deal with acceptance of losing a loved one or what have you. And that took me by surprise. I thought it was gonna all just be like Motorhead riffs, and
Yeah.
then
Right.
by the end of it, it ended up being like a very difficult process to work through. But we did.
Right. We all know you write like a lot, and you really take your time to write. Like I mean, you talked a little bit earlier about how's your work day, but like, are you very in the mood for like you told me once when we're at NAM, you were like, oh, dude, I gotta get home because I heard that there's rain coming at home. I
Yeah.
need to get home. And right, I have to take the next flight. And I thought
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I never even thought about that. But like, why is that so important?
It's just the way I was raised. We're on that's the word, Pacific Northwest. So we're on the west coast of Canada,
Yeah.
and I was raised with the dramaticism of the mountains here, and the mist and the fog, and I the only other type of weather that I find as inspiring actually is snow.
Mm.
My buddy has got like a summer house up near Umeå
Mm.
actually,
Yes.
and in the winter where you have to snowmobile out there and it's just so quiet.
Yeah.
Those kinds of environments, for no reason other than just my personality, really are where I find myself creatively most active.
Mhm.
When there's no need to go outside because it's too shitty.
Yeah. Am I right? So,
Yeah.
so could you write a power nerd song in a winter landscape, or is it asking for something more ambient, or how's that?
Well, the Power Nerd artwork is all pictures of mountains in the rain.
Yeah.
So I think that the engineer that I work with and I have this sort of running joke that when it's miserable out, we're like, oh, it's a Power Nerd day.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah. So I think that although the first song, Power Nerd with the silly video, is a very specific aesthetic,
Mm.
it's more like comedic and lighthearted. The record itself is actually really it's got a melancholy side to it that defines the project more than any other quality, actually.
All right. And
Yeah.
I saw also that you're releasing it on Dolby Atmos
Yeah.
mix and Blu-ray, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? Like, who do you mix that?
I did, and it's not the best Dolby Atmos mix you'll ever hear. I only had like a couple of days to do it, but I wanted to start.
Right.
So I built Atmos in here, and we've been
Yes.
working. The parameters for making Atmos accurate in a room requires all these kind of phase,
Yes.
time alignment, all the offsets that go into it are so complex, and then the process of articulating music that is, in the case of Power Nerd, very clearly like meant to be a stereo mix. It's like
Yes.
simple music, right? To try and turn that into an Atmos mix in the amount of time we had, it's not bad. But for me, I figure that it's the first attempt at doing Atmos, and
Hmm.
it it'll clearly only get better. But I also feel that if there's anything that has defined my career over the years is I'm happy to I'm happy to try things,
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I remember the first album that I mixed of my own material was Synkestra years ago.
Yeah.
And it basically sounds like a vacuum cleaner when I listen to it now, you know. But but at the time too, all the anybody who does their own recording, which is everybody now,
Yeah.
like there was a lot of people like, oh man, it sounds awful. It sounds this and that and the other thing. But if I have any advice to give to up and coming musicians, it's like you have to throw yourself out there.
Mm.
The only way that you can learn to mix is to start mixing.
Yeah.
And I feel that was the case with Atmos. The only way that I can start to get good at Atmos is to start somewhere, and
Yeah.
Power Nerd is that somewhere. So,
Yeah.
do you want to listen to it in Atmos and stereo? Like, you might want to try the stereo, but
It's
you
not
know.
many people that have the option to listen to Dolby Atmos even, but
Oh, well, it's binaural on Apple Music, and it
oh yeah,
defaults
that's right. That's
it
right. So
defaults to it. Yeah.
okay. But
Well,
so
what's
do you design I'm not completely sure how that works, but
yeah.
are you designing the room then, or
Yeah, so I've been doing it with some friends of mine and acousticians, but how Atmos works, which is so fascinating, and this is why I want to get good at it
Mhm.
because so I had 4 days to do this one. No,
Mhm.
I had about 6 days to mix Power Nerd, and you need a lot more than 6 days to do an Atmos mix. But again, it was starting somewhere, and the reason why I think it's fascinating is the algorithm that they utilize within the renderer
Yeah.
for Dolby Atmos essentially folds down and then splays up the mixes to all these different formats. So binaural, Atmos,
Yeah.
5.1, stereo. If you do it properly, you can have all of these embedded in the metadata
Okay.
of an ADM file. So when you deliver it to Spotify or Apple Music or Tidal or whatever system people are using, it will do
Ah,
that digital
okay.
work, and it's a
So you don't have to
fascinating.
ship away 5 different versions of
It's
the
amazing.
thing. Yeah.
It's amazing, and that's one of the prime reasons why I wanted to invest in making an Atmos system, because once you get to the point where you understand what the best use of all this sonic space is, if you mix it in Atmos, then that down mix, in theory, you just deliver that ADM file, and then whatever format people are listening to it on, it's there, right?
So are you gonna go on tour with this?
Yeah, so we've got basically my inbox this morning was all these tour dates that I have to confirm or deny.
Yes.
Do you have those moments where you wake up and look at your inbox and you think, you know what, later?
Yeah.
The answer is I will be touring, and I've spent literally 2.5 years building a studio and
Yeah.
moving again, and then all the family things that happened, and then like losing some friends, and then all these things have been so understandably
Mm.
in the forefront of my mind that it's only now that I'm starting to get back into the swing of music. So
Yeah.
I'm starting to, with these 4 records, this is almost like a reintroduction in some way.
Yeah.
And another reason why I wanted to start with Power Nerd is to say to the audience, like, man, it's been a crazy couple of years.
Yeah.
Thank you for the patience.
Yeah.
Here's something fun and straightforward. And the next 3 are decidedly not.
Yes. I mean, dude, take your time. I know the fans, they are there. They're gonna wait for you. You have incredibly devoted fans. And that's something I see everywhere on as I'm browsing the internet. As soon as I say something about you, the fans are there. They're excellent. I just wanted to
Yep.
say congratulations. Hope
Yeah.
the album is. I hope to get the album soon so I can listen to it thoroughly.
It's I'm happy with it, buddy, and I think the biggest thing that I try to put across with the work is like, um, I don't want to be afraid to do anything,
No.
whether or not it's an opera or meditation music or like, funny stuff or whatever. I think that I'm now at the age where I know myself well enough that whatever mood I'm in, I want to be able to articulate that. So thanks for the help, and I hear the same thing about you online. People like,
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Because it's basically your music is your life.
uh-huh, of
That's how I see it. So it's
course.
it's quite a thing to follow. You see the waves and the dynamics and all that. So it's really interesting. It's not many artists I can say this about. So
Yeah, well, I
that's a good thing.
appreciate it, buddy. And I mean, it's like you gotta commit to a good portion of the metal community just being like, what the fuck is this guy all about? But I'm cool with that, man. Maybe when I was 25, it would have bothered me, but at
Yeah.
52, I'm like, dude, I don't give a fuck.
Dude, thank you so much for taking the time.
You got a good voice for this.
Oh, you think? But I think it's microphone.
Well, now I have an
It's not the
erection, so
first time
there's that.
someone has said this though.
Right. I've heard something similar, but it was always, boy, that guy's got a small cock.